Welcome back to another episode of the MacRumors Show. Before we get started, we did want to do some general housekeeping notes, announcements, however you want to phrase it. But in the future, I'm not sure it's going to start with this episode or even the next episode, but the general rule of thumb we're going to remain weekly on a schedule. We're still going to be bringing you weekly uploads. However, we might cut the time down to around the 30-minute mark. Now, with this one, might go over a little bit, with these special episodes where we have events to talk about, or obviously next week when we actually have the new products, there's going to be a lot to say. And so we probably can't fit it all in that 30 minutes. But moving forward, when we're in that time of the year, I don't know, the last few months, Hartley, right? We could have done probably, and we're going to focus more on one singular topic or just something that we can really hone in on for 30 minutes or less, or maybe slightly more. But we're trying not to do the hour-long episodes anymore, just to make things a little bit more on track and focused. And so just wanted to give you that heads up. And also around the holidays, we will probably be taking some time off towards the end of the year. There's just not a lot to talk about. And, we need breaks. So we'll be taking some time off then. But most of the time, it'll be weekly episodes around that 30-minute mark. So nothing's changing too much, just maybe a little shorter, bite-sized for those who don't have a lot of time to listen to an entire hour. Now you can get it consumed less. But this one's still going to be a little bit longer because it's event week. After a few days after this comes out, it'll be Monday, September 9th, and it'll be Glowtime. So Hartley, are you getting amped? Are you getting pumped?
I'm starting to. I mean, this is our time of year, September, October. There's going to be so much to get into. Sometimes Apple events can be fairly low key. They can be quite small, and we sometimes don't expect a whole lot. But I think that this event in particular should be really jam-packed. There is a lot that we are expecting to see.
Yeah, I mean, the obvious starts with the iPhone 16 lineup, and then we're also expecting, obviously, some new watches and even new AirPods. And so there is a lot to get to. So let's jump in. Let's start with, what do you think the order is going to be? Probably AirPods, watch, phones, or the other way around?
I think it might go watch, AirPods, iPhone.
Okay. Well, I trust you more than I trust myself. So we'll start with the watch and we'll go in your order. So,
okay.
Apple, they're kicking it off. They're on stage. Tim Cook did his good morning. Everything's going on. We're flying into the watch. What are we expecting to see first? I think it'll be Apple Watch SE 3. And with that said, it's mostly just like a little spec bump, right? We're getting a faster S9 chip. That's probably it. Some slightly larger displays, perhaps. Anything that you want to dive into on the SE3 that you think might be? I think
it's a little bit more than
upgrade?
A spec bump. I think it's a notable upgrade because
it hasn't been updated in a few years.
2 years. The Apple Watch SE seems to run on a 2-year upgrade cycle. And the reason why I think this is more significant is because this is the first time that the Apple Watch SE has actually been redesigned. The previous 2 generations, the first and second, have the same design, which is effectively the design of the Apple Watch Series 4, with those slightly larger bezels compared to what we have today, and with that slightly smaller casing size. So it's available in 40 and 44 millimeter casing sizes. Now it's going to be moving up to 41 and 45, which is the same as the current Apple Watch Series 9. And that was the design that was introduced with the Series 7. And also another pretty significant design change is moving to a plastic casing. So we've never had a plastic Apple Watch before. That should lead to a really quite significantly different look to it. But also it's kind of changing the market. It's making it a lot more kid-friendly. And it should mean that it's actually available at a lower price point. I think the Apple Watch SE is already a really great deal. But if it comes in even lower, and you get that larger display, and you get a faster chip, I think this is going to be a really compelling device. It may not be the star of the show at this event, but I think it will be enormously popular. And actually, another thing that's worth bearing in mind is the first generation Apple Watch SE is losing support for the new version of watchOS. So there will be a lot of first gen Apple Watch SE users, and indeed Apple Watch Series 4 users, that are going to need to upgrade. And I dare say that the Apple Watch SE 3 will be the device to get.
Absolutely. That is the one that I recommend to those who I can just kind of tell, when people ask you, like, which Apple Watch should I get? And I'm like, well, how do you use it? And what are you trying to spend? And they tell you X, Y, and Z. And it usually leads into being like, well, I just want to track my steps. And my mother-in-law just said this the other day. She's like, I just want something that'll track my steps accurately and like give me some things. But she doesn't really care about notifications or like all that's just a bonus. And so I'm like, well, just get the Apple Watch SE. Like, that'll be perfect for you. And now I'll tell her to hold off a second because I don't think she's done it yet. Wait for this Apple Watch SE where it's just more improved. And then it falls into two camps. Like, obviously, entry level people who don't have an Apple Watch yet, which kind of few and far between these days. If you have an iPhone, I think most people, in my mind, I feel like almost most people have an Apple Watch. It's very rare that I've come across someone who has never even thought about it, let alone not have one. And then, the other camp is those, like you said, Series 4, anything older, really. Any kind of older Apple Watch that you're looking to bump into, like, this is a good option if you're just trying to keep things simple. I wear an Apple Watch Ultra. I don't need that. Like, it's just, I could get away with an SE for all the things that I use my watch for, which is quite literally just the health tracking and getting notifications and answering the occasional phone call. What about you, Hartley? Could you get away with an Apple Watch SE?
Maybe.
Not from a look standpoint, not from a fashion standpoint, just from pure functionality.
From functionality, I would say yes. I do occasionally quite like tinkering with ECG, and for me, I still have access to blood oxygen as well. And I quite like occasionally diving into those health features. But there's not a huge amount that I would be missing out on. And I think particularly, as you say, if you have never had an Apple Watch before, this will be the watch to go for. And currently it's available for, I believe, is it $249? Or $269, right. Something like that. I think that if they move to this plastic casing and they are trying to be more competitive, we could easily see this third generation Apple Watch SE coming in for $199, which would be
That's
really
pretty huge. Yeah. The 40 mil starts at $249. 44 starts at $279. If you want GPS and cellular, it's $299. So, I mean, yeah, and I think these look good. So about the plastic casing, you think it's really going to change the look, or is it just going to be colored plastic to look like what we already have? Like, I think it will inevitably look different.
I don't think Apple really ever does silver plastic or gold plastic.
I can't remember the last time we've seen anything plastic from the iPhone 5C.
We know that Apple likes white plastic, so you can bet there'll be a white option, which I actually think would look really good. It will kind of remind me of the ceramic model.
Yep.
And I bet that there will also be some bright colors, a little bit like the iPhone 5C. And I can imagine that being really popular. The Apple Watch SE is a really good buy for kids, because if you have, maybe your kid is too young to have an iPhone, but you still want the ability to message them or to track them on Find My, or so they have some kind of cellular connection. And there is also family setup available for the Apple Watch. So it is primed for that kind of use case. It's perfect. And I can imagine, buying your kid a plastic Apple Watch that feels more resilient. It's lighter in weight as well, so it's more appropriate for kids. It's actually making it a way more kid-friendly device, but also just far more accessible. I think it's really good.
Okay, let's dive into that really quickly, because obviously most of you know I have kids, and my older two are starting to get into that age where, like, really just my oldest, like, we put an AirTag in his book bag, right? Because the bus system here is just notoriously awful. And we have no idea where at the end of the day, when he's coming home, where he's at, like, in location. And with an AirTag, you really can't get that live update that you can with, like, an actual device when it's with Find My that can support that. And I've never done this, so please let me know if I'm wrong or right or whatever. Does that work the same way? Like with my iPhone, when I track, if I'm looking where my wife's location is at, like I can see and she can see the same thing for me where I'm at, moving in real time. If they don't have a phone but they're using a GPS and cellular, I'm guessing it works the same way, correct?
I'd
With a
hope so,
watch.
yeah.
I've never done this before. I've never had a reason to track. So in my mind, let's just say for the sake of this, and hopefully that's the way it works, we'll be able to see in real time. That's a huge thing. Obviously, also for him to be able to give us a call if anything's wrong. Obviously, hopefully not impacting anything with school, but in an appropriate time, giving us a quick call, sending. We could even show him how to send a quick text, like getting on the button, like anything for that. I just think like that's huge, and I'd be willing to do that, but I'm still in that conflicting, like, what age is the right age for that? Is 8 too young? I feel like 8's too young, so that's why we haven't done it. Because I could just have given any of the older watches that I have here, but how do you feel? If you had an 8-year-old, would you give him a plastic watch SE for $199?
Yeah, I would, because I don't think it's a device that a kid can really be distracted by. They can't browse the web on it. You can't play games on it. So I think that it basically is just a device that exists for messaging, calls, tracking, fitness tracking.
Yeah.
So I see no downsides.
And there are watches, what is it, like the Gizmo watch? There are watches specifically made for kids. And I mean, it is what, 55? I'm seeing it 55.99. This one, so like I think they go for like a right around 50 to $100. In my mind, I'm looking at it as, yeah, I'm sure those do a decent job. Maybe that's good for like my 6-year-old, where we're just kind of starting her off because she's in kindergarten, and so like that's kind of like an entry level to this. But like, I don't know, if you're spending $100, I'd rather spend the extra $99 and get my kid an Apple Watch where it's just all in the ecosystem. It's all in my Find My. It's easy for us to use. It's not a different app that we got to check out. He would kind of know how to use it because he has familiarity with that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm actually, if that's the case and that price point does drop, I am very intrigued by this. I wonder if my wife would get upset with me buying a watch for my son. She probably would. Okay, so moving on to the series. Well, actually, let's do Ultra. Let's, the Apple Watch Ultra 3, or should we do the Series 10? Because some of the features that...
I mean, they're going to be the same upgrades.
Yeah,
but
that's
there
what I'm
is a
thinking.
design change for the Series 10.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Like in my brain, I still have this ingrained into my head that the Series 10 is supposed to be this magnificent redesign, this huge thing, and it's not necessarily. Unless things have changed. Did I miss something in the latest news cycle today?
Nope.
Or are we still expecting kind of a don't get too excited type thing with the Series 10?
Definitely. It looks like that's going to be the case. So what
Bummer.
we know for sure is that there will be some kind of design change that means there will be larger casing sizes. Now, this has got a little bit confused over the last week. So maybe it isn't going to be moving quite in the direction we thought. There's been some strange rumors about flat displays and maybe that the smaller casing size is not disappearing. But we actually haven't covered any of those on MacRumors because they seem pretty sketchy. But the rumor cycle's got a little bit more muddled, is my point. But in terms of what we have covered, and in terms of what we do know for sure, or what we think we know for sure, as is often the case with these sorts of rumors, is that the casing sizes will be getting bigger. So moving from 41 to 45 and from 45 to 49. So effectively, that smaller casing size, which I have, the 41 millimeter, is being discontinued. The 45 millimeter is staying in the lineup, and then there will be a new 49 millimeter casing, which is the same size as the Apple Watch Ultra. So there'll be a little bit less difference between the Series 10 and Ultra. That is effectively it, because it looks like the design is going to be pretty much the same. We're not expecting them to add an action button or anything particularly radical. We're expecting Apple Watch Band compatibility to remain, or at least the same system to be in place. So nothing really particularly different. That's why I'm hesitant to call it a design change, I suppose. A better way of describing it is just an adjustment of the available sizes. A little bit like the iPhone 16 Pro, where per se the design is not changing, but they are getting bigger. Looks like that's the same thing with the Series 10. The rest of the changes look like they will be coming to both the Series 10 and Ultra 3. there's not too much to get excited about with the Apple Watch. I mean, I wonder if there's going to be a few surprises because it looks like there's so little in store. One of the upgrades we are expecting is the S10 chip.
Yep.
And I'm pretty intrigued by this because the S9 was a really big chip upgrade for the Apple Watch. It was one of the main upgrades last year that enabled new Siri functionality, and it is significantly more powerful because you have to remember that the previous 3 chips were basically all the same, but this was the first chip redesign that the Apple Watch had for 3 entire years. So I'm skeptical that this chip is going to be completely redesigned again, but one thing that is rumored is that it will have more AI capabilities. Now, this isn't Apple Intelligence because Apple Intelligence requires 8 gigabytes of memory to run. The Apple Watch has nowhere near that.
Right.
So it's unlikely that Apple is going to go and put 8 gigabytes of RAM, the same amount you get in a Mac, in the Apple Watch to run Apple Intelligence. But that doesn't mean that there won't be some kind of groundwork laid for future AI features. So it makes this kind of an odd upgrade because I don't really know how much they're going to have to talk about with this unless there are new AI features that they are not going to describe as Apple Intelligence, but they are still going to say, here is a new AI-driven health feature that is only supported by the S10 chip, which is slightly more powerful. And lastly, there are health features, but this is also pretty muddled because there are 2 that have been rumored: hypertension detection and sleep apnea detection.
Okay.
It is not clear if either of these will actually get into the new Apple Watches. The reason is because hypertension detection, which is related to blood pressure, has apparently had a lot of difficulties when Apple has been developing this, and it is not clear if it will actually be ready for the new Apple Watches or if that will be delayed to next year. That's often what happens with a lot of these new Apple Watch health features. They get delayed year after year. And sleep apnea detection depends on blood oxygen. So is Apple going to unveil sleep apnea and say this is available in every country except the United States, and take the stage time to do that, knowing that it is not going to be available in its biggest market, if indeed that is also ready? Or are they going to wait until they have got over these patent issues with blood oxygen monitoring? Are they going to unveil that with watchOS 11 next year? Who knows? It's a very much a gray area what these Apple Watches are going to really offer, because we have a sense that there may be some kind of new health feature. There could be 2, there could be none. We think there will be a new chip. At least we know there will be in terms of what it is called, but is it really going to offer anything different? And we know that there is going to be new larger casing sizes for the Series 10, but there will be no design changes for the Apple Watch Ultra. That's it. We don't know anything else about these devices. And if it was the case that neither of those health features are ready and the S10 is just a relabeled S9, it could be the smallest Apple Watch update ever. But if it had both of those health features and AI features and the redesign was more significant than we were expecting, it could be one of the biggest Apple Watch updates for years. So who knows?
Yeah. I mean, with the blood pressure and the sleep apnea features, I am so curious as to like what Apple is doing differently in order to get this feature into its devices than say Samsung did with. Honestly, I think blood pressure has been around, monitoring has been around on the Galaxy Watch 5, and we're now on the 7s, and you can get both sleep apnea and blood pressure on one of the series. I don't know if it's across all devices, but definitely on the Galaxy Watch 7. So yeah, just curious what are they doing differently that is causing such delays in this? I know Apple's not always first to things, but it's like it's been a few years and there's other devices that do this. It's not going to be to the people that know, it's not going to be as revolutionary as, it's already out. So I don't know. That's what makes me think like, okay, maybe this is it. We've heard it so much, like, and other people already have this in its devices. So I feel like this has to be it. But if it's not, that's kind of a major disappointment for the Apple Watch again. I feel like last year's Apple Watch was an incredible like just oversight for many people. It's about like the tech enthusiasts. I don't know what the general public cares about anymore in terms of yearly Apple Watch. I'm guessing it's not as important to them as the iPhone, obviously. So like, but for people who do this, hardcore tech enthusiasts, those of you listening to this podcast probably fall into like, you're interested in all the devices that come out. What's your level of interest with this series as opposed to last year? Because for me, I didn't focus on it at all. I don't even think we even covered the Series 9. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think I did any work on the Series 9. I think I just did the tap thing, and I don't even use that anymore. I don't know. It's kind of like an oversight. Just I don't even think about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the thing with the Apple Watch is it's definitely not an annual upgrade device. It is a device where you have to let the upgrades stack up. So for me, I currently have a Series 8. It was absolutely not worth upgrading to the Series 9. But if there is more to offer in the Series 10, if you stack up the upgrades from both the Series 9 and Series 10, it's probably starting to get near being worth an upgrade. I could keep going for another year, but
yeah, I was going to say I'd still argue for most people you might be able to wait one more year and just say
most people easily. But I'm saying even as a tech enthusiast, it's hard to really justify it after 2 years, but I probably just about can because I would quite like double tap that was introduced last year.
You really? Really? Why?
I just think it's a cool feature. I think I would use it. There's plenty of times when I'm carrying something or whatever, and I want to be able to control my watch without touching it or with only with one hand. And I think it would be useful.
See, I just think the problem with these types of features is that it's just so hard to remember in the moment that you have it. At least for me, and I know others have told me the same thing. Like, it's really hard if I'm washing the dishes and my hands are wet or I've got stuff all over it and like I just don't want to get the screen dirty. My first instinct is to just use my nose and do this stupid thing. And I know people who've done the same thing. And then you're like, oh, it's like after the fact, you kind of remember like, oh yeah, I could have just done this. And it's not as reliable. I mean, right now it's working pretty well, but it's not as reliable and it can't really do as much as you might think it can. So I don't know. But like, yeah, I mean, maybe you might like it. I kind of want you to get a watch that has it now, and I want to know. I'll come back to you in like 2 months and see how many times you've used it.
I might get the Ultra next time around.
No, you won't. Really?
I'm pondering
you were so against it because of the size, and you don't like the look of it as much as the stainless steel.
I recently bought a mechanical watch, so now for occasions when I want to dress more nicely, I can wear that, and that changes things now because it means that the Apple Watch becomes a fitness tool specifically. It is no longer a fashion accessory for me. And that might open up the Ultra. And also, I'm getting kind of bored of the Apple Watch. I want something new. I want something fresh. And I think that the Ultra, combining that with 2 generations of successive updates, might be enough. So I've got all the upgrades introduced on the first gen and second gen Ultra stacked up, as well as 2 generations of the standard line Apple Watch. So that might be enough to keep me engaged just for a year. Just try it. Why not?
The battery life's pretty killer too. That's just like the biggest improvement you'll notice immediately. Just battery for days. All right. Well, I don't really think there's anything else. Let's quickly dive into, I guess AirPods are coming. For some reason, I'm still real hesitant to be like, yep, they're going to be there. I don't know why. A lot of people have been saying, we're saying AirPods are going to be there. Like, just rumors are strongly pointing to it. I don't have any strong reason why. I just feel like it's not going to happen and it'll be kind of a bummer, but let's just operate under the impression that it is because that's what we have. AirPods 4, 2 new models. So a standard model, just the improvement over the current third that I'm wearing right now, with the next model having ANC and a charging case speaker for Find My. I think what do you think the price points are going to be for that? 179, 190. No, that's too much of a little gap.
I mean, it all depends. This is such a rabbit hole conversation for me because I have a suspicion that the next gen AirPods Pro are going to be more expensive, and with 2 different variants of the AirPods 4, that's really important to mention. coming in at two different price points, I can imagine us looking at $300 for the third gen AirPods Pro. That is some time away, but I think that's worth bearing in mind that I think, and that hasn't been rumored, it's just a hunch I have, that considering the hardware we're expecting with cameras, that could see a price increase. And then maybe seeing the high-end standard AirPods coming in at $200, and then maybe the low-end standard AirPods coming in at $150.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair. Yeah. 179 is the current price, right? For what you get now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, by the way, with the standard model, we're expecting the H2 chip across both, right? So that's going to improve sound. We're expecting a refined design. Can you elaborate a little more on the refined design? It's not going to be anything drastic.
No, just I think that we can expect fit to be a little bit better, slightly shorter stems as well, a little bit more like the AirPods Pro.
Okay.
So at the moment, you can roughly tell the difference. So I'm wearing AirPods Pro right now, and you can see that my stems look ever so slightly shorter than yours.
Yeah.
So that is probably what is going to happen, as well as just improving that in-ear fit.
What about the sound volume here?
I mean, that hasn't been rumored, but it's possible.
Could be nice. Would be nice. USB-C on the case, obviously.
Yes.
You won't be getting anything lightning. And then, that's just for the, if that's at 150, that's still a really good deal. And then if you want ANC, and we're guessing transparency, but I have not seen those two. I'm guessing that has to be tied in, right? Or is there a world where we would not get transparency with that doesn't make any sense to me.
That's not going to happen.
Okay. But no one's I'm just saying I've read I think it's just implied, but man, wouldn't it be crazy if they're like, here's active noise cancellation, but you can't have any transparency. That's just for the pros. And then charging case, like I mentioned before, so you get that Find My feature that you get on the AirPods Pro. I mean, for $199, I'd say that's pretty good. And then I don't know that I love the Pros being $300, maybe $279. I'd be okay with. Be great if they just stayed at the $249.
They're often heavily
so you had
discounted.
Every $50.
So,
yeah, I mean, sure.
On Prime Day and things like that, it's just at launch. That's the price we're going to be expecting. I don't think really anyone, unless you're buying them directly from Apple, is paying full price for AirPods.
I gotta say, I don't think that I would be using the AirPods Pros anymore until the AirPods Pro until the third gen comes out, and then I have to go and review that. But I think if we do get these new high-end versions of the regular ones and it has ANC, I'd probably switch to that full time. I just like the way these fit my ears better.
I used to enjoy using them quite a bit, but I find that I've got more and more used to AirPods Pro, and I was using the AirPods 3 less and less. I would consider going back to them because I think most people find that the AirPods Pro do get fatiguing after a while in a way that
they do.
Earbuds without in-ear tips simply don't. But it is a question of, do you want to have, at that point in time, I had all of the different AirPods. So in total, I had 4 different sets of AirPods. I had my AirPods 2 as my spares for my AirPods 3. I had my AirPods 3 for when I got too fatigued from wearing AirPods Pro. And I had AirPods Max for when I wanted something more heavy duty than my AirPods Pro. It was too much because I just didn't use them enough to justify it. So it's a nice to have, but ultimately I've just reverted to AirPods Pro and AirPods Max. And to be honest, I don't even really use my AirPods Max all that much nowadays.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much how I feel. And speaking of AirPods Max, nice little segue into the AirPods Max 2. In which case, if you were to buy them, you probably still wouldn't use them all that much because we're unfortunately not expecting anything new besides potentially new colors and so long Lightning. You'll get USB-C. And I guess Bluetooth 5.3 because that's the new standard for their devices. Do you think there is a world in which this is wrong and that we will get we're not even going to get the H2 chip? If the regular AirPods are going to get the H2 chip before the AirPods Max? How does that make any sense?
I think it's all very peculiar. We've not heard a huge amount about the AirPods Max 2 for a long time. especially in relation to this event. The AirPods 4 are pretty locked in. The AirPods Max 2 are not. They are probably they're probably the thing at this event that is the most 50-50. If they did appear, I don't think the tech community would be surprised. But if they don't appear, I also don't think that we would be surprised.
Sure. I think that's probably what's keeping me at like a distance when it comes to embracing the AirPods rumors, because we see AirPods Max lumped in with the 4, and I just don't think the Max are going to happen. So I just kind of assume none of it's going to happen.
I don't know what they're thinking with AirPods Max. I think this is a whole separate rant.
Yeah.
It to me, it's basically not worth updating them if that is all you are going to do. USB-C is nice to have, but it is almost infuriating if you do not make refinements to other areas that, by your own admission, are significantly better with newer hardware. Things like active noise cancellation. If active noise cancellation is a huge amount better with the H2 chip, why are you keeping AirPods Max on the H1 chip? Why are you keeping skin detect sensors on the AirPods and AirPods Pro, but not the AirPods Max? And that isn't even to mention the design, which I'm fairly confident Apple is not 100% happy with the design of the AirPods Max. They constantly need servicing. They probably have more AirPods Max in for repair than many, many, many other different devices. So
how many years has it been? Was it 2020?
Yeah, it was. It was December 2020.
So almost 4 years. I'm going to go out on a limb. Maybe this isn't that much of a stretch, but if we don't get it by this year, I feel like they're just going to stop making these. Maybe this is just it. Like there's just not a strong.
It might be like the HomePod.
Yeah. Discontinue it for a few years and see if the people want it back.
Yeah, and then bring it back with a more substantial redesign. Or the other alternative is that the rumors of what we are currently expecting the AirPods Max to be just vanish like they already have. We have heard nothing about them for quite a long time. We could continue to hear nothing. And then we could get a report in June of next year saying that actually that's not happening anymore, and now we're expecting a completely redesigned model September next year.
Dude, that's too many years from now. That's too many. And there are so many other options that you can buy.
Yeah.
Like I'm almost just to the point where it's like, I don't know, who cares? Just buy something else. Don't hold your breath. Because people have been asking me. They've been interested in over-ear headphones. And I'm like, well, don't do it because I feel like there's supposed to be new ones coming. But also, we've been saying that for 3 years now. So, I don't know. Just buy at your own risk. We have buyer beware or whatever tagged on that forever. How long has that been running? Is that the longest running
time now?
The longest running thing on the MacRumors Buyer's Guide. All right, let's jump real quick. We've talked about the iPhone 16 a ton, so we can keep this relatively quick. There hasn't been a ton of new rumors, I would say, lately. The biggest thing on the 16 lineup, in my mind, that is new in terms of rumors is the bronze color. And we love our color debates here at the MacRumors Show and just MacRumors in general. What do you think, for those who have not heard, about this potential bronze color? Would you get it?
No, I would not.
Okay.
But I would be very happy for everyone that could. So there has been no gold iPhone. There's been no gold iPhone for a while now. So it's a good option if you like that. People are always drawn to whatever the newest feeling color option is. It's always most predominant in the marketing materials. It will be pretty different to what was available last year. And it is titanium. After all, we will never have had a sort of gold, bronzy titanium iPhone. And if you think about it, all the colors that are available for the iPhone 15 Pro are cool in color temperature. So you've got blue, black, silver, and gray. So gold would be a fairly significant change in that regard. Personally, it doesn't actually make me excited, but yeah,
it's a warmer color option. But when you described all four of those, my immediate thought is just, it's boring. It's so boring. There's just nothing. Like the bronze has me excited because it's going to be the most different looking color of the last year, out of the
Yeah.
ones that we currently have. The blue looked good. I don't mind this gray titanium. I mean, it must be really popular because literally Samsung made a color pretty similar to that, and then Google the Pixel 9 looks, or the 9 Pro. I mean, it's nearly identical to that natural titanium color, and I liked it. I'm ready for something different. I'm probably gonna go with bronze if it looks like what I'm hoping it'll look like. Otherwise, I don't know, go back to black or something. I don't know. It's just I want something fun. Give me something fun. What was the most fun color that we've had in the Pro? Purple? I didn't even like the purple.
There was a purple Pro. There was. I forgot all about
Yeah,
that.
like 2 years ago, right? The
Yeah,
14?
it was dark though. It was dark. It was a dark
That's why I
purple.
said I didn't even like it.
I
The
think
forest
probably
green.
Yeah, a midnight green.
That was the. Which one was the refresh one?
That was forest green,
Yeah,
alpine green.
yeah. Whatever the green was that they released halfway through the cycle for the refresh in spring or whatever, that's the one I liked. I never even owned it, but I liked it a lot. I liked that color more than anything. I just didn't need another iPhone. Yeah, I just think every Pro color has been pretty boring. I'm going to be quite honest with you. So moving on to the colors of the regular lineup, 16 and 16 plus. Those are pretty interesting. They're not as pastel like, which I did not love. The pink I actually really did like. For those who would like pink, I think people really enjoyed that like frosted back glass with that pink infused in there. I think that looked really good. All the other colors are pretty tame, but now we're looking at what a like turquoise and another blue that's a little more bluey, I guess. I don't know how to describe colors. More saturation in these compared to some of the other options. How do you feel about those? And then, of course, we'll have black and white. And I think pink is coming back, but does it look the same? I don't remember.
It's always very, very hard to tell because we don't
It's going to be
actually
a
know
little.
the exact finishes. We can see on dummy models and we can get an impression from rumors, but it's always very, very hard to tell what these colors will actually look like until they are actually unveiled.
What do you think about that turquoise and blue, if that's what it kind of looks like and holds up?
I mean, they're fine. I quite liked the pastel colors last year, so
of course we could not be more different when it comes to colors.
I just
all right.
It's because I would never buy a really brightly colored iPhone.
True. I'm a hypocrite, man. I say that I want the I say that I want some more fun, and then I would look at the more fun color. Like Apple releases like a bright, I don't know, maybe they might do a bright orange, right? And you'd be like, Dan, that's your thing. You wanted an orange iPhone. And then I look at it and I'm like, yeah, I think I'm just gonna go with black this year.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't listen to me on colors, but love to hear what color you want, because I think that's a good topic to get some feedback from you all. All right, we'll run through some things here. iPhone 16, 16 Plus, horizontal cameras, those are gone. We're going to go in vertical so that we can get spatial video for a $3,500 headset that most of you probably won't buy. There's the A18 chip, so that'll give us Apple Intelligence, which is nice. And you'll get the action button if you stay on the standard models. And the most important thing that I wanted to talk about, honestly, is the capture button. Do you have any new info on how this capture button is going to work and what things that it can do? And how do you feel about the capture button overall?
So it looks like it is going to be a capacitive button. So this will prevent accidental presses. It will only enable in certain situations. And it also means that you should get haptic feedback from that based on what you're doing. So you can do a half press, just like you could with a mirrorless camera to lock in focus. And it should enable you to swipe on it to zoom in and out. So there'll be a variety of gestures, whether that's just half press and swiping. And I imagine you'll be able to customize that to precisely what you want, whether that is locking in exposure, locking in focus, and of course capture, as well of initiating recording or actually snapping a photo. The other thing is this will be available to developers, but only for photography apps. So
Okay.
if your preferred app is actually one of the many very good third-party photography apps that are available, you will also be able to use this button with that. And of course, I assume you will also be able to actually launch the camera with it, which would free up your action button if that's what you currently use it for, or your home screen toggle if that's what you will be using that for in iOS 18, to use those for something else, because you will now have a hardware button that you have to use for the camera.
So you think it's going to actually launch because that's what I'm super excited about. It's like, okay, now I'm going to have the action button freed up for something else because that's what I use my action button for. Do you think it'll actually launch the camera app though? Because now I'm a little worried that that's going to mean, how's that going to work? How would it know that I'm trying to launch it if it's specifically designed to prevent accidental presses? Wouldn't it just think that I'm accidentally pressing the button when the phone is locked?
That's why it's a capacitor button.
So it's going to rely on like a forceful touch on that one.
It will, yeah, and it will actually rely on a touch from a human finger. So it's not going to activate in your pocket, or it will feel different to the lock button, because the lock button will actually, or the power button rather, will actually remain having a single physical mechanical click, whereas this will be capacitive. So they should have quite a different feel.
Where I'm getting at though is it's almost in the damn near perfect spot of where most people probably grab their phones with their thumb.
Yeah.
And so I'm saying is like, I feel like there's still going to be a boatload of accidental camera opens, which is the thing that plagues me currently. How many times have you seen my camera app or my flashlight on since we've been around? I told you that's a real problem that I have, and I don't understand why. So it's just like we've eliminated one way, and now we've added another. Actually, we haven't even eliminated one way. We have added another way in which I can now launch my camera app accidentally. But I'm excited for that. It's like a catch-22. I'm excited for that capability, though, because I want to be able to free up the other button. So you know who does it the best? It's the Android phones, where it's double tap the power button and it launches the camera app. That's the perfect, because that's the one thing I almost never do on accident. It is a very specific, memorized press by me. When I pick up an Android phone, my brain knows I can double tap this power button and it's going to launch the camera app. I think that's perfect. That's what we need. But yeah.
I agree. And it's interesting that it's coming to both models as well, both the iPhone 16 and 16 Pro.
That's true. Because that's such a pro feature, in my opinion. Like, if there's one thing that you're like, oh, that's a pro, like the cameras have always been pointed as like, you're getting the best cameras. It's a pro feature. And this just seems like another assisting, I don't think my wife's going to care about the capture button. I'm just trying to think of the general user. I don't know that she's going to be like, oh yeah, I definitely needed this. It might be a nice to have, but I don't know. I'd be curious to hear what the everyday person who like never once thought about having a specific button dedicated to camera features would think about this, now that it's going to be across all models and you don't have to go to the Pro or Pro Max. Speaking of the Pro Max, we are expecting a 48 megapixel ultra wide. What's the deal with the telephoto? I feel like early on in the rumor cycle, we were expecting a more improved telephoto lens to where you would have an even further millimeter of distance for zoom. What is it at now? 70 or 77? Weren't we like thinking 100? That's what it's at now?
Yeah.
Huh. Okay, so that 120 we know is going to come down to the 16 Pro. For some reason, I was getting something confused in my brain where I thought it was less and we were going to be going up to 120.
Well, there was this one rumor
like
about having a super telephoto at 300.
Yeah. That's the rumor that I'm thinking of.
But it was an isolated rumor, and we've heard nothing about it since. So
it's not happening.
It seems that Apple tends to upgrade only in a significant way, one camera per year, and we've done the main camera with the iPhone 14, where we got the 48 megapixel sensor. With the iPhone 15 Pro, we got that 5x telephoto for the Pro Max, but it was new technology. And then this year will be a 48 megapixel sensor for the ultra wide. Next year, we'll get a 48 megapixel for the telephoto, but it's one per year.
Okay,
So
it's
that's still pretty good
not
for
as
for the ultrawide, because low light
the
is not
ultrawide's
good
bad.
with the
Yeah,
ultrawide.
yeah.
So that does need some improvement.
It's still going to pixel bin down to 12 though, correct?
Yeah, you'll have the ability to shoot in 48 megapixel if you want to.
Okay, so you can still do the raw. That's good. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of it. I mean, there's really not. Are you okay? We're wrapping up, anyways. You know, I told you we'd probably go over on episodes like these, and so, what is the? And I hate to use the trope, the one more thing trope, but like, what is the one more thing in your mind? And it could be very minor, but like, what is the one thing that has not been rumored that you are either thinking or hoping is going to happen?
New Apple TV.
Oh, okay, that's good.
Because that
I
has
like
been
that.
rumored for a while. I don't really see what it would offer other than just a chip upgrade, but I am kind of intrigued by where the Apple TV goes next. It kind of goes hand in hand with HomePod, because if the S10 chip offers AI optimizations, even if it's not Apple Intelligence, the HomePod could definitely do with some AI enhancements. So if it was the case that the S10 with new AI features comes to all of the new Apple Watch models, what if they also come to the HomePod Mini and the full-size HomePod? So Apple TV and HomePod, I think. HomePod is not rumored. Apple TV has been floating for a while, but they're not
It's
totally
not
out of the
rumored for
question.
this event, but so you didn't cheat
No.
technically, because I did say to pick something that wasn't rumored, but I meant for this event, so that's okay.
Yeah.
That's a good
What
one.
about
That's
you?
a good one. Honestly, I made up this question and didn't have anything. Do you think we'll get new? Mine would be, and I don't think this is actually going to happen, but I would hope for it to happen. Some sort of new accessories for charging. So like a new
MagSafe
what's
Duo.
the yes, thank you. I was like, what's the folding one that I use that I still carry a lightning cable for? Can we at least get a I mean, I would love a newer version where it's a little bit better designed and like just better in general, faster charging, hopefully. Because I know we've also heard rumors on like the iPhone accepting a faster wireless charge and just a faster wired charge. But like, is that actually going to happen? I don't know. So that'd be really nice if that does happen. And then we have a new lineup of MagSafe accessories to come with it. And like one of them would be a nice update to that MagSafe Duo for travel for sure. Air power would be great. Can we get the air power? Can we please make air power happen again? Let's go. Round 2.
Yeah, I don't think that's ever going to happen.
No. Just it's going to be, you know who's going to join? What product's going to join that purgatory?
What's that?
AirPods Max.
AirPods Max.
I hate
What a
to
shame.
end this show on a bummer. Can we woo, new iPhones. Who's ready? Let us know if you're pumped. Let's get back into we're pumped. It's an event time. Everybody should always be excited if you're an Apple enthusiast or just a tech fan in general. New events, new hardware, new announcements. Those are always the best times of the year. So super excited. I'll be having some content from the event. So be sure to subscribe. Hartley will be having, tons of articles and things, information for you on the website. So of course, be sure to what's the equivalent of subscribing to a website? Bookmark and turn on notifications, right? Would that be what you would tell people, Hartley? You got to start getting into that call to action for the website. So yeah, do that. do that, and we'll obviously be having a show next week where we'll talk about everything that's finally happened, so we can stop speculating. And we'll catch everybody in the next episode.